to look into what could be the future of PD. So wonderful talks from morning. So I'll just, before 2 steps back, before going into the future, we need to recognize people who have done wonderful work, starting with James Parkinson's in 1817. We have come across a lot of discoveries. Charcot, father of neurology, describing the Parkinson's disease. And then moving on, first levodopa in 1961, and then the dopamine agonist in 1974. We have come to the discovery of the genetics, from genetics to microbiomes of the gut influencing PD, and also the MR ultrasound. So it's been a wonderful journey so far, but we are at the crossroads. The next 10 years would be exciting, so that is what I want you to take you through. This is the latest Lancet editorial. People who are interested can go through this, so you could get a clear picture what the future of PD is going to be. So what lies ahead? So there's been a tremendous change in therapeutic landscape with the discovery of a lot of medication for incurable diseases and the neurodegenerative diseases perspective in terms of the ASO therapy for the spinal muscular atrophy, and recent FDA approval for Alzheimer's disease as well with the aducanumab and the lecanemab. So recently there's been a lot of clinical trials for PD. So there's more than 150 registered clinical trials happening. So as somebody was questioning, so where are we now? So what are we looking at? So we are looking at all the three aspects, from the preclinical, prodromal to the clinical disease aspect. So the preclinical, we are basically concentrating on the biomarkers, and prodromal factors, we are trying to see a screening algorithm where we can catch them early, and also the clinical parameters as well, where we can give them the symptomatic therapy. The main focus has been, most of the trials, more than 45% of the trials has been towards the disease-modifying therapies. So there are various neuropathological aspects happening, so I will go through each one of them, so one by one. So we had a wonderful talk in terms of the pathophysiology, genetics, and the animal models which are helping us in the therapeutics. So where are we currently? So there is some amount of neuroinflammation and iron metabolism happening. Okay. So we have had a lot of genetic breakthroughs. We know the Parkin gene, the PINK, and the SNCA. So as we are looking at personalized medicine, so we are looking at a lot of clinical trials which are linking the genetic aspect to the therapeutic aspect, wherein the ambroxol and the venglustat. Ambroxol is a cough syrup, so which we all know, we've been using it for decades. So people have been thinking out of the box to give solutions. So we have advancing into phase 3, phase 2, phase 3 trials where it is showing good results. So we just have to wait for more results. And there has been a lot of research happening in terms of the stem cells. So you can see that basically the concentration has been for a more disabling thing, acute spinal cord injuries, to ALS and MS, where there have been a lot of funding. But recently we have seen a lot of trials being, there is a lot of recruitments happening for Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. I think the basic sciences people are already aware. They're doing a lot of work on IPCs. So we have come a long way from the fetal VM tissue to the human embryonic stem cells to isolated pluripotent stem cells. So how we do this? We take the fibroblasts, we de-differentiate them from the mutant iPSC cells, we create a corrected iPSC line and transplant, and then look for therapeutic benefits. So to want of time, I just move through. So we are more concentrating on the autologous graft because we know allogenic graft, other donors, like we have a vast experience in transplant, like the kidney transplant patients. You take a donor, ABO incompatible donor, you have to give a lot of neuroimmunosuppression for them, so there are a lot of side effects for that. So autologous grafts are the main line of therapy where you can avoid these kind of draft rejections and immunosuppression, but it is an expensive line of process. So moving forward, we need to see how we can take this forward. So going on to the symptomatic treatments, where are we now in terms of the early PD? There's a compound called as tavapadon. It's a novel D1, D5 dopamine receptor partial agonist. It has shown good results in terms of early and late stage patients with motor fluctuations. So there has been improvement in motor fluctuations in early PD. So the second drug is opicapone, where my colleague mentioned about it. And the other one, what I want you to highlight is a low dose combination of two already approved compounds, that is pramipexole and racegiline combination, has been evaluated in patients with early PD. It's undergoing a phase 2 trial. So the results of phase 3 are pending. Moving forward to advanced PD. What do we have for advanced PD? So one of them were asking, how do we, the motor fluctuations on period, off period. So how do we recognize this? In clinical aspect, we have this 1-to-5 rule, where we have 1 hour of troubles, dyskinesias, 2 hours of off periods, and intake of at least 5 doses of levodopa. We consider them as advanced PD patients. So we have, because we were just discussing about the gut, so mechanistically, a variable dopamine plasma levels due to a pulsatile oral medications, erratic gastric emptying, and decreasing neuronal buffer capacity can result in motor fluctuations. That's what we were trying to tell you. And that is where there have been innovation. So there is these compounds where inhaled levodopa and sublingual form have been in the market, not currently available in India. Hopefully, it will be available soon. And then safinamide was discussed. I want to discuss something about zonisamide. So zonisamide is an anti-epileptic drug. We have vast experience with that, but it has been tried in Japan. It's currently not been tried anywhere else in the other group, so we don't have enough data to use them. So the other drug is suvecaltamide. It's a T-type calcium channel modulator. It's currently being evaluated in phase 2 trials for basically for severe tremors. And my colleague also discussed about the physical aspect. So there has been a lot of trials happening in that aspect as well, aqua-based therapy, endurance, gait balance, functional and multi-domain training. What are these bringing forward in terms of the motor and non-motor aspect? There are a lot of clinical trials. So there have been a lot of interest in that as well. So our own yoga and Tai Chi, we have known there's a lot of data already available that they do help in controlling the motor aspects. Moving forward to non-motor, safinamide, my colleague discussed about the safinamide as an add-on therapy for levodopa. But what I want to focus here is safinamide in terms of non-motor. It has good benefit in terms of sleep, fatigue, mood, and as well as pain. And pimavanserin and quetiapine, these are two drugs which are also being tried for depression, the non-motor symptom, and also ondansetron, an anti-emetic, a vomiting medication. So there is a lot of repurposed medications which have already been used. We have good experience with it. We know the side effect profile. And moving forward, I think we need to just hope that these medications do work in some of the non-motor aspects. Moving forward to vaccination. So there have been a lot of data about the vaccination, but initial trials show there has not been a good response. So on one hand, there is a PD01A and PD03A has completed phase 1 PD for PD patients, and AC17104, an optimized formulation, has announced phase 2 trials. On the other hand, there is UB312 having completed phase 1 just recently, and they've also started recruitment for phase 2 trials. So these are the targets for basically alpha-synuclein. So I spoke about most of these drugs. I don't want to get into because we still don't have any breakthrough here, but there are a lot of trials being undertaken. Moving forward to immunotherapy, so there are like multiple sclerosis, we have a lot of immunotherapy available. We have good results. That is being extrapolated to other neurodegenerative conditions as well. So two main drugs here, cinpanemab, N-terminal aggregate specific antibody was tried, but it was a failure. So the second drug, so prasinezumab, C-terminal antibody missed its primary endpoint in phase 2 trials, but it did show a partial response. So they have taken it forward to 18-month more extensive trial to see if there be some response in terms of the immunotherapy aspect. In terms of the ASO, there has been a breakthrough in spinal muscular atrophy. So there is a hope that it will be helpful in Parkinson's patients as well. So it is basically being tried in multisystem atrophy, and the PD investigators do feel if it works for MSA, then this can be extrapolated for PD as well. And anti-inflammatory drugs, so some of the drugs used were simvastatin and verdiprestat, but they were failures. But there are trials for azathioprine and also GLP-1 analogs. So these are GLP-1 receptor agonists have been used in type 2 diabetes. So there have been promising results. This is one of the drug I want you to remember, exenatide. We can have a lot of breakthroughs there. So it is going through phase 2 and phase 3 trials. And recently, this was a paper which was published in NEJM. It came a couple of days back. So this is similar to exenatide, a GLP-1 analog. So it has passed its phase 2 trial where it showed good efficacy. So there was not much of progression of the motor symptoms, but the only side effect were the GI symptoms. Hopefully, that gets sorted out in the next phase of trials. The other target is the mitochondria. So the disease-modifying therapies targeting the mitochondrial dysfunction, unfortunately, inosine and pioglitazone were a failure. But there are two other drugs. Ursodeoxycholic acid is currently investigated in phase 2 trials, and also notably the bile acid torso-deoxycholic acid in combination with sodium phenylbutyrate is also being investigated. Reaching the genetic aspects, the LAR2 and the GBA gene, so there are been a lot of trials happening there as well with the DLN 151 and the BIB 094. So these are also in phase 2 trials. So I did talk about the Ambroxol, which was the cough syrup. This is also, I want you to remember this drug. It could be one of the drugs which may do wonders. So initial phase, it has so it's a chaperone of the lysosomal enzyme glycocerebrosidase. It displayed good target engagement and increased glucocerebrosidase and alpha-synuclein levels in CSF, and it led to improvement in the UPDRS part 3 scales in an open label study. So it is in phase 3 trials now, so we just have to wait for those results. So these are the targets for GBA. Coming to device-assisted therapeutic monitoring. So from the preclinical to prodromal aspect, in prodromal, because most of the patients are not coming to us, so we are not able to identify who are the PD patients. So these device-assisted therapeutic monitoring can help us even to know the off and on periods. So there has been a lot of research and a lot of bioengineers, a lot of engineering students in all the universities have a lot of hope because it brings in a lot of money. So this is the market. So you can see in 2026, it's going to be a $1 billion economy. So we do have a lot of devices available currently for monitoring. So it could be a PD monitor, PKG, STAT1, Dynaport. These are different companies using all this. Kinesia, Mobility Lab, and Feet Monitor Inosol. So these are some of the available device-assisted monitoring devices. So there has been a lot of data because clinicians basically don't like everything taken away by AI and bioengineers. So that's where these kind of a negative comments were made, where they said this could induce risk reduction of frequency of face-to-face appointments, so we can miss patients from moving from Parkinson's to Parkinson's plus disease. So there was an article about this. So coming to personalized medicine, so there's been a lot of device-assisted monitoring available, target-specific therapy, and we have come a long way in all this. Also in terms of the biomarkers, how the devices can help us. So in monitoring the sweat, saliva, tears, and the interstitial fluid. So there have been sensors, there have been glasses, there have been mouth devices which have been available. So moving forward, I think we are looking at a great future for PD. I think if we can have a breakthrough all across in all ethnicity, if we can replicate whatever data has been available, I think we are near the stage where we could avoid, give a precision medicine. So learning from our diabetic patients as well. So now there has been availability of these kind of levodopa sensor strips. You can just put a drop of blood and check your levodopa levels, and you can top up your dose. So we are moving towards that, as well as like the diabetic sensors, we are also going to have something called these kind of levodopa sensors as well. So there was, I'll quickly place just video. There was this viral video. So where there was gate freezing, where they've done a spinal cord stimulation.
Un peu de la fatigue aussi, vous voulez un
C'est pas la fatigue.
Just 30 more.
My
just few
role
seconds.
was to implant electrodes over the spinal cord responsible for locomotion. So those are the last 6 centimeters of the spinal cord, and I applied electrodes on the top of the spinal cord that are linked to a neurostimulator located under the skin in the region of the abdomen.
So that's the spinal cord stimulator.
We start programming the stimulator in order to apply this electrical stimulation to the spinal cord of Mark, and he starts walking better.
So the walking was better. So this is just one patient. There might be a placebo effect. So we need to see if this works in more number of patients. But that was a viral video, and this was in January, where the Harvard group, so biomedical engineers there, came up with this robot suit, which just gives a kick to the hip. So when they freeze and they start walking. So that was with assist. So these are available. So if you want to know more about future, so there is this list called as Parkinson's Hope List, where there's the summary of all the trials. So you can go into those links. It is being managed by Dr. Kevin McFarthing, a biochemist and a person with Parkinson's. Thank you.